One quiet night in Japan, Keed is sitting in her room on call with her friend Riza, who is excitedly telling her to open up and try the package she received. She is a soft-spoken, introverted high school student. Riza is one of her only friends and is much more extroverted. She managed to convince her to order the latest game in Japan. The box contains a VR game called New World and various other equipment like the VR headset, gloves, game controller, and more. Kate only bought the game at Riza's insistence. She pushes her to try out the game immediately, even though she herself cannot play as her mom has asked her to study for the upcoming test. So she leaves the call in a hurry. Kate is left alone in her room, staring at the box and trying to figure out what to do with it. She thinks about the sparkle in Riza's eyes while talking about the game and finds it difficult to turn down her request. After a lot of thinking, she decides to try it on and sets up the game. Once in the game, she is asked to enter a player name. She only gets one chance to choose a name, and after some thought, she chooses the name Maple in relation to her actual name. Her next step is to pick a tool to use in the game, and she is mesmerized to see a number of different magical weapons and shields floating around her. Some of these are swords, staffs, maces, shields, spears, arrows, and others. Each tool has its own strengths and requirements. Items like the sword and spear require a great deal of movement and brute force. Others, like the staff, provide the player with wizard-like powers. She does not want to pick these up because of her fear of being hit and getting hurt. However, after looking at all the tools, Keed comes across a great shield, which has a short sword and is most suitable for a tank. The shield has less ability to attack an opponent, but is the best for defense. She realizes that if she raises her defense enough, she will be protected from any kind of damage. It's her most preferred choice, and she proceeds to transfer all her status points into her defense. Soon after the game begins, she is transported into a new world. It has a fairy tale-like appearance with wooden houses, enormous trees, and sunlight shining through the leaves. It feels as real as the actual world. After she begins to move, she realizes that her walking speed is extremely slow compared to all the other players around her. This is because when she transferred all her status points into defense, she left her agility and strength abilities at 0. So while she is able to protect herself from any kind of damage, she lacks the skills for other tasks. Instead of rejoining the game, she decides to stick with the character, Maple, she created. Maple is anxious to start her missions and fight monsters. After asking another character for guidance, she learns that she can find monsters in the forest nearby that are suitable for level 1 players to fight off. Maple heads into the forest, calling out the monsters. She sees a tiny rabbit-like creature jump out of the shrubs in front of her. It appears to be a cute, innocent being until it suddenly charges towards her. She puts out her shield in front of her and stops the rabbit's attacks completely unharmed, no matter how much it tries to hurt her. This goes on until the little monster dies, which leads to her leveling up. Her success on this defense gives her double the number of vitality points as well as 5 new status points, which she once again adds to her defense to protect herself from being hurt. She is almost immediately faced by a new monster that looks like a giant bee and also spits poison. Maple can easily defend herself against the bee's hits, but does not have the defense for its poison, so she tries to retreat quickly before stumbling onto a new skill. She can build up her resistance to poison by allowing the bee to hit her with it. She stabs the bee in the head with her short sword, collects the bee's ring, levels up, and receives a new item. This rare gem increases her vitality and also covers her HP points. With the new status points she gets, she once again brings up her defense points. This time, she also has the ability to defend herself from a giant. All this fighting exhausts her, and she lies down for a bit when a number of different monsters come out of the trees and bushes to attack her. Maple's defense is so strong that she does not even get disturbed by their attacks. In fact, she gets another skill of being able to level up her HP with meditation while being attacked. When she finally realizes there are monsters trying to hurt her, she gets up, starts killing them with her sword, and levels up again. Once more, she adds the points she gained to her vitality and then decides to take a break from the game to finish off all her homework. Back in the real world, Keed finishes her homework and returns to the game alone again to explore the VR world some more. In the game, Maple sees a character with a beautifully crafted shield. She enthusiastically runs to him and asks where she can get one. He offers to take her to its creator, even though he realizes she is just a newbie. The shield crafter introduces herself to Maple and asks questions about her character. The cost of a good shield is much above her budget, so the shield crafter advises her to keep working and earning coins. She sends her to a forest that has a lot tougher monsters and a higher chance of looting some good equipment. Before leaving, they all added each other as friends in the game so they could talk whenever they wanted. She makes her way to the dangerous dungeon all by herself. Within seconds of being there, she is attacked by different ghost monsters, which she defeats quickly. She continues her journey deep into the dungeon and finally reaches the hideous poison dragons. They spew out enormous amounts of poison at her, and her HP begins to drop. But she uses her potion to keep regenerating her HP while at the same time building her resistance to the poison. Her plan works, and the poison dragons can no longer hurt her. With no weapon to kill them, he decides to defeat the dragons by taking bites out of them. After moving up another level, she puts more status points into her vitality and gets her first attack skill. She also finds a treasure chest with a one-of-a-kind suit inside it that only gets stronger every time it is broken, making her all the more powerful. As time goes on, Maple continues completing various missions in the game and defeating all kinds of monsters. With just her vitality stats, she's able to collect a large number of skills, boosts, and rare items while also mastering the game. One day, Risa tells her about a server-wide event, a battle of royal players that is to take place. The winners will receive special limited edition items. She can't resist her urge to acquire special limited edition items and is excited to participate in the event. She arrives back in the game, ready to take on the challenge. She is astonished by the number of people who decided to sign up for the event. The mascot, a dragon creature, announces the rules and guidelines for the game. It is expected to last 3 long hours, and a never-before-seen map has been created for it. The time begins, and all the players are sent to an unknown place in the game. Maple ends up on top of a broken fort high up in the mountains, with nothing but nature on all sides. Since she can't seek out monsters and attack them, she decides to sit there and wait. From one of the dark corners of the fort, a voice is heard making all kinds of threats to her. The very next moment, a boy with long green hair raises his weapon to strike her, but her extreme defense powers take him out as soon as he attempts to hit. The other players have been waiting in the dark all this time to try and see her attacks and moves. They all decide to charge at her at the same time, thinking she would be powerless against so many. But she was no ordinary player, and none of their abilities were any match for all the skills she had acquired over time. Her defense is impenetrable. After killing player after player with not a sign of tiring, Maple climbs to the 3rd rank. If the top 3 players are killed, the killer gets 30% of their points. When the remaining players make a desperate attempt to take down Maple, they are faced with terrible defeat, and she retains her position and wins a commemorative medal. Back in the real world, Risa and Keita continue discussing the game. She makes plans for how she will play when she can finally join the game. They decide to join forces and raise their defenses even more. When she joins the game, Risa names her character Sally and divides her points among different stats, but leaves out vitality and HP. Her highest stats are in agility. After further discussion between the two, they decide that Maple needs to get herself an upgraded shield. She heads back to the shield crafter, who asks her to bring her the materials for the shield from a faraway, dangerous forest. The girls begin to prepare for the mission and combine their strengths of agility and defense to defeat any monsters in their way. Using rods, they begin fishing for a special kind of animal and level up their skills. After catching about 25 fish, Sally dives into the pool and resurfaces 10 minutes later with a much larger haul. In the water, she finds a locked cave and decides to explore it some more. They parted ways to work with their own strengths and speed up the mission. After many days of playing, Sally has advanced her swimming skills to level 10 and explored the entire underwater area. She has only 20 minutes to go into the locked doors and fight a sea monster. She struggles to fight it, and no matter how much she attacks, it just won't die. She throws every single one of her powers at it and manages to kill it. All of her efforts pay off, and she finds the treasure chest that gives her a special ability suit. Maple's unusually high vitality stats have created an imbalance in the game and allowed her to move up the ranks at a very fast pace. The developers of the game are astounded by this and create new skills and weapons that can cause damage even in total defense. They also employ ag technology to ensure no more characters like her enter the game. She is concerned about being hurt in the game, but her friend reminds her that the real fun of the game is being vulnerable. She remembers how her battles became boring after a while because she knew no matter what, nothing could harm her, and with all the skills and equipment she had collected, defeating the enemy had become a piece of cake. Thinking of this, her enthusiasm for the game is restored. Back in the New World game, they discuss how to bring Sally to level 2. They find unexplored areas of the map with the potential of finding rare items and skills and decide to conquer them together. But before setting out on this mission, they go to a small rustic cafe. Even after paying for her new shield, she has money left over so they can treat themselves to some good food. The cafe is lifelike and the food is indistinguishable from the real world. Players go there to rest and replenish, as well as to socialize with other players. They talk about the chances of participating in an event together when 2 players seated near them overhear their discussion and chime in. They tell them about an upcoming event that is to happen the next weekend. It is a treasure hunt quest that also includes a party and allows players to team up. They also tell them about the top player who won the last event by a huge margin and is considered to be just as good as a final boss monster. He plays solo and with the right equipment, has the ability to defeat Maple as well. They take suggestions from them on where to start their exploration and make their way to the North Forest, which is considered a difficult quest for new girl players. The forest is dark and gloomy, the only light is from spooky floating flames. Sally is terrified to proceed further in the dark, They spot a cabin in the woods and head towards it. The cabin looks run down but becomes a safe place from the monsters outside. Inside the cabin, they find a secret basement that leads to an underground place with a blindfolded man tied to a chair. He is screaming in pain, so the two use their healing potions to help him, after which they receive a scroll for their next quest. Before leaving the game, she decides to try out another place. It is covered in beautiful sunflowers and the sky is colored yellow and red. They also find tiny rubies here. The next day, they find themselves at the entrance of a deep cave. A herd of boar monsters charges at them, and she manages to stop them all by using her shield. She realizes she has only 4 more uses left for that day when suddenly an enormous bear appears in front of them. They test out a new skill called Mirage, where the shield seems to disappear. They successfully manage to kill the beast and walk to the end of the cave and through a gateway. Inside, another boss monster in the form of an antelope is found. They combine their powers and attack it with all different skills and weapons, but the monster knocks her out. Sally is forced to take on the monster on her own, and with the added adrenaline, she deals a fatal shot to the monster, killing it. They teleport back to the shield crafter, where her snow-white shield is ready. The girls celebrate their win by sitting down to a magical dinner under the beautiful star-filled sky. The food tastes like a combination of different fruits and causes temporary changes in their appearance. Soon after the day of the second event arrives, different leaders have already assembled groups of players. The strongest group is the red one, led by a female player. For the event, players have to collect coins to trade in for a gold medal, which can then be exchanged for cool gear and skills. Maple already has a gold medal from the previous event, but she has to protect it well since other players will try to steal it. The week-long event begins. The mission starts off in a serene location in the midst of rocky mountains and green pastures. They are excited to embark on this new journey and overcome all the challenges together as a team. As they continue walking, Maple suddenly disappears. Upon inspection, she realizes she has fallen through a hidden gateway in the ground. She joins her in the secret pit. On opening the giant gate, they encounter their first mega-boss monster, a hideous Joker creature. With Maple's ability to take on massive damage and Sally's super speed, the monster is defeated in no time. They find their first treasure, which has 2 medals in it, and then head back to the outside world. They reach the top of a snow-covered mountain and run into Karamu near a new ice gate. After a short conversation with him, they realize his team seems to be having a tough time, so they let them go ahead and collect the coins. But soon after the gate reopens, they suspect that the other players may have been wiped out by whatever monster lay waiting inside. They enter and are faced with a giant ice bird. The monster puts up a strong fight, sending ice block after ice block to hit them. They keep trying different attacks and moves, but nothing damages the ice bird. In fact, even a poison dragon weapon paired with her cover moves is no match for the might of the monster. She manages to slice off a leg of the monster, but it doesn't slow it down. Instead, it seems all the more enraged and dishes out extreme damage to them both. With her high agility and her special movement skills, they dodge the icicles thrown at them. They try using the meditation skill to stave off the attacks, but are still overpowered. Their HP and Maple's shield begin to deteriorate, endangering them even more. The ice bird monster's poison-force shots sent her flying across the place and broke the shield in half. Finally, they make use of the Mirage skill they learned and trick the monster into attacking an empty space. With their remaining strength, they make their final attack on the monster, ending the battle for good. They take a short break to catch their breath and then go around the ice cave to look for the spoils of war and their medals. Floating on the water, she finds a bird feather that can be used as crafting material. She collects the item and hears Sally calling her from the top of the cave. Quickly transporting herself there, she finds herself standing in front of what appear to be monster eggs along with 5 medals. The eggs have different looks and are expected to hatch soon. The girls decide to keep them and carry them as pets as they continue their mission. The whole time, the developers are keeping a close watch on the activities in their game. They are shocked when they see the ice monster, which was made to be impossible to defeat, dead, and gone. They start to worry that Maple is becoming too powerful for the design of the game. If she continues playing this way, collecting medals and leveling up her stats, she will be unstoppable and possibly end up causing glitches in the game. In the game, they watch as a player kills another to collect medals and remember they can do the same but don't engage in anything for that moment. While resting, they try to warm up the eggs to hatch them. The eggs split soon to reveal adorable tiny creatures that look like a turtle and a fox. Along with it, they also find a ring with which they can use the monsters to fight by their side. They name their pets and check out their stats. And when a tiny monster appears, they order their pets to kill it. The next part of their journey takes them through a desert and into a mirage, where they meet a player who wants to kill Maple and collect her gold medal. Kasumi draws her sword and challenges the girls to a fight. However, she soon realizes the odds are not in her favor and tries to back down. She is scared. But Sally is not one to back down from a fight and prepares herself to attack. In the flash of a moment, they are at each other using their super high agility skills. Maple is left behind in the dust, unable to move at their pace. She calls out to them, but to no avail. The fight has reached further into the hostile and arid desert environment. She pulls out her sword, slicing her body in half thinking she has won, and realizes it wasn't her real body but the Mirage spell being used. They continue fighting when they hear a loud scream and see Maple on a shield flying towards them. She crashes into them, which triggers a massive sandstorm, and they end up falling into another underground dungeon. It is made of a stone wall and is very dimly lit. This time, when they get up, they see that they have been bound by a cursed chain, which is made so that if even one of them dies, they will all die. Due to these circumstances, they are forced to call a temporary truce and work together to find a way out of the dungeon. They begin walking down the path without realizing she can't keep up with their speed. She falls and finds a medal on the floor. They decide to follow the Finder's Keeper's rule and allow her to save the medal. When they reach the door and open it, they'd expect to find another boss monster waiting for them. But it turns out that the creatures living in this dungeon are simply underground dwellers with no HP, making them unkillable. They are giant snail-like creatures, and they have to make sure to avoid them and run away. A herd of them come out of their hiding spots and chase them, but using their super agility, they drag her along and run until they reach a dead end. The only escape is a hole in the wall very high up. They can reach it only if they combine their skills of high leap and sword jump. Their joint efforts pay off, and they successfully reach the top. Their handcuffs disappear, and a moment of gratitude passes between them. A treasure chest awaits them. Inside it are a special shield and spears with 2 medals. Since she already has 1 medal, the other 2 take 1 each. The shield goes to her and the spears to Kasumi. When they return to the desert, night had already fallen. Before parting ways, they decide not to fight, but instead add each other as friends. Maple expresses how she isn't too worried about collecting medals, which causes a disappointed look to be seen on her face. The event continues, and one by one, they keep completing quests and missions in caves, abandoned towns, lakes, cemeteries, beaches, and more. On the 6th day, she finds Maple playing a game and building sandcastles with a red-haired girl. She is very suspicious of this interaction, but the girl provides them with a lot of helpful information. She also gives them a book with a clue for a bigger puzzle. It leads them to a dried well, where she uses her torrent skill. The wells unlock, and they are transported to an underwater world in the middle of the ocean. They face a big squid boss monster that doesn't take direct damage, so she uses her poison dragons to contaminate the water and kill it. Once again, the developers are left stunned by this development. They need 2 more medals to reach their goal, so they split in order to work quicker. Sally goes to attack other players and collect their medals, while Maple stays back and guards their pets and medals. She is a fierce fighter and takes out a whole range of players. They lay low in the cave to hide from attackers until the end of the event. With the medals they won, the turtle was upgraded into a monstrous mobile as well as other skill sets. The girls go back to the real world and walk to school. Even though there's just been a day, their brains feel like a whole week has passed, and they struggle to focus and stay awake in school. Their reflexes are still wired for those in the game. The developers put in a bunch of new updates after the event was done. Players can now buy homes by catching and trading in special light bees. They go house hunting, and after a long and hard search, find the perfect one for them in the forest. It is built into the trunk of a large tree, and the sunlight floods in through the small windows and lights up the room. The earthy structure of the home gives it a soft and calm feeling. They buy and move into a house that is so big that it can accommodate almost 50 people. Kasumi and Kanad are the first to be invited to the guild, and 2 other old acquaintances follow next. Everyone votes to make Maple the guild master, who gives a short speech before picking Maple Tree as the guild's name. Even though she was hesitant at first, she takes on the role confidently and promises to protect all her members from any harm. They take a trip on the Flying Turtle and reach an abandoned mine where they can acquire a ton of new equipment. When a monster appears, she takes on the fighting while the others focus on mining material. Together, they defeat all the forest monsters. At the next guild meeting, they discuss the next event that is to happen in a week, and since it is a guild competition, they need to go out and recruit more members to increase their chances at winning. Most of the higher level members are already members of guilds, so they go down to level 1 to scout players. The 2 new members are maxed out on their strength stats. They spend time getting to know each other over tea and pastries. To level them up, they lead them into the dark forest of level 2 to help them fight the monsters. Sally engages in a fierce battle with a boss monster, but combined with her defense skills, the monster is killed soon. The players witness the true strength of their new members when they accidentally crack the whole table without any effort. They continue on with their task of training the newbies. In one of the quests, they have to fight a 3-headed monster. Maple instructs them on how to attack before using her Hydra powers to make the final kill. They move on to practicing with time-bound missions. To help them with the fight, she gives them a special agility potion to quicken their moves and finish the quest on time. It has an immediate effect on them, and they speed through the cave to face the boss monster and practice their skills. She uses her shield's Devour skill, but they still don't finish the task in time, so with the 9 more chances the shield has left, they keep attacking using different attack strategies until they kill the monster under the time limit and head back to Maple Tree. The guild is shocked and amazed when they learn that by completing so many levels, the newbies had managed to acquire double the amount of strength points along with fire powers. She gifts them special crystal hammer weapons for all the effort they put into their training. The rest of the group also keeps training and leveling up their skills. They face a new stone monster together and try out the crystal hammers. Meanwhile, she is spending her time in the library, trying to solve a puzzle. She gets another cube which merges into a bigger cube and can be used to store spells and other points. She experiments with different chants and spells to make the best use of her new equipment. Out on the field, she tries out a new skill, a protection spell that causes a huge ball of sheep wool to form around her. Kasumi helps her out of it the first time, but when she infuses Hydra Dragon poison into it, no one can get near her to help her out. He enters a dungeon called the Grave of the Dead and has to defeat a skull monster. With just a little effort, he manages to beat the monster, and the cave reveals a coffin-like door. You are only allowed to enter if you have died and been revived at least 4 times in the game. He uses the door as a shield and goes in with the turtle to level up his skills by killing the smaller skull monsters inside. She has reached the town and decides to spend the day by herself since the rest of the guild is off doing their own tasks and missions. While exploring, she watches an NPC being unwell. The mother comes running to her, crying for help, and she does not refuse them. She needs a special kind of medicine that she can't retrieve by herself. It is Maple's task to escort her to the place in order to get the medicine, so they climb onto the turtle and follow her directions to the Spring of Purification. The journey is over a forest of dreadful undead monsters, but they are able to safely pass over them and pick up the medicine. It isn't enough, and they need to travel again to a distant land to get a special ring that heals the body. She remembers already having the ring on her and offers it to the NPC, who thanks her. But the daughter runs away, and to save her, she travels to the Temple of Darkness, where ghost monsters lie waiting. She thinks the monsters are hard to kill as neither her poison nor the shield have any effect on them, but she is surprised when they suddenly just disappear. The next part of the quest chain calls for more tasks, but she is equipped with the perfect bottle that releases an angel who was supposed to be the guardian of the NPC. This concludes her quest, and she earns a new sacrifice skill. With all the coins and points she has acquired, she upgrades her suit and shield with the loving sacrifice skill she learned, which makes her group nearly impossible to defeat as long as they stay within the radius of the circle. As long as she lives, they can all be protected by this ring. The other guilds start to worry about Maple Tree and make plans to research them, so they are prepared to defeat them in the event. The guild convenes back at home. She announces that with the excess wool she collected, she has made new fluffy outfits for all the girls, along with hammer accessories. The event is called Cowbell, and the players are supposed to collect the bells off of the cows. They are worried about how she will perform in this event since it isn't within her usual skill set, and so they send her different tips and advice. She manages to collect one bell, but unexpectedly falls down a hill into another forest. After getting up and finding a coin on the ground, she walks towards an abandoned church, which is occupied by a demon monster who wants to harness her powers for himself. He uses a hex to bind her with chains. With the sheep's wool power she acquired, she hides away. Turtle enters the fight and restrains the demon's arms. It spits out a mighty poison at it, but is able to just dust it off and hit them back by spewing fire all over. Maple is now stuck in a burning ball and gets swallowed by the demon. Her maxed out agility protects her from any kind of damage, and she escapes the demon by eating it out from the inside. She is rewarded with another new skill that will help her gain demon-like powers too. This leaves the developers worried again, as she is now part demon and part angel. They start speculating what other loopholes she will find to level up. The cowbell event continues and guilds combine their powers to kill herds of cows and collect the bells. Maple Tree did their best and managed to bag several different rewards from collecting their bells. All the players get 3 times the bonus strength, and even though she has 0 strength, she has acquired a new skill that allows her to turn herself into a monster with extreme strength. To take the guild up to level 3, they must fight a tree monster. She uses her new atrocity skill to take down the monster, leaving the group baffled. The level 3 guild section of the game has a completely different theme. An industrial city with dull, hazy skies, electric wires running everywhere, and barely any greenery in sight. It's a machine world waiting to be explored. They split up to cover more ground quicker. She sees an old man lying on the ground, starving and deprived of water. He is an NPC that gives out quests, and after she provides him with bread and water, he narrates the story of how the city came to be. Long ago, the machine god, who lived at the top of a grand tower in the center of the city, built all kinds of machines, including flying transportation. No one understood how or why these machines worked. When they took them apart, they realized they had no gear, screws, or springs inside, but still functioned perfectly. The machine god was a source of hope and fueled the dreams of even those who did not understand machinery. The city was overflowing with numerous tools and equipment. One unsuspecting day, there was a bright explosion like a flash in the city, and all the machines had been replaced by new ones. The second generation had taken over as machine god, and no one in the city remembered the first generation. The old man was outside the city when it happened and retained the memory of the first god. With the information she has gathered, she takes her turtle and flies to the grand building where the god resides, but gets pulled into a different location, the Graveyard of Dreams. A large humanoid with a demonic look sits on the throne as the king of machines with great wisdom and faraway dreams. But upon further investigation, he starts to glitch and malfunction, turning into a machine that turns dreams and miracles into rubbish. A fight breaks out between them, and in his last moments, he bestows upon her a special gift that she must use to defeat the current machine god. The demonic machine starts attacking her again, but with her new power, she turns into an armored fighter, and with his untapped power, she completely destroys him, burying him below all the rubble of the building. The guild awaits Maple's arrival in an isolated location, where she shows them all the new machine power she has gained through her quest. They thank their stars that she is their friend and fights by their side. The other guild continues their training, but also sends one of their members to spy on Maple Tree and learn their secrets and powers. They continue practicing their skills and unlocking new levels. Eyes fights a crystal dragon in the cave and is rewarded with a treasure chest full of skills and added benefits. Meanwhile, the girls notice the spy and confront her. She admits that she was scouting for the other guild and is challenged to a duel. The loser must give up guild information, accept the terms, and request that the game send them to a dueling arena. They try to force out each other's secret skills. She has a multitude of elemental powers that she defends with her cascade skills. The spy soon realizes that if they continue, she will learn too many secrets about her. So she surrenders and, as agreed, gives her information about the Flame Emperor Guild. Maple has played her own game and bluffed her fake skills. Giving her the wrong information may be more advantageous than hiding everything. She returns to her guild and recaps how she played an amateur so that the others underestimate them and they can strike when no one expects it. It is time for the fourth event to begin. Guilds are scored depending on their size. The lower the membership, the more potential they have for earning points. Each team is given a base and an orb to protect. Losing them results in a loss of points. They must also try and capture as many orbs of others as possible with the aim of keeping the orbs for at least 2 hours to gain points. If they retrieve their orb within this time, there is no gain or loss of points. The stolen orbs return back to the home base after the set time can be traced using a map. Players are penalized with a slash in stats every time they die and are eliminated if they die more than 5 times. Repetition of stealing a guild's orb is prohibited. The best strategy for the event is to strengthen the guild's defense. A small team like Maple Tree will have problems dividing the work among players, as they will have to work overtime with no rest. Sally takes charge and puts Maple, Kanad, and them on defense while the rest prepare to go on offense. Eyes will remain on base as a backup. In the few hours before the event, the team goes back to practicing their moves one last time. The event begins and attackers head out to take down other players and steal the orbs. They first fight off a guild twice their size and with little effort manage to steal their orb. While she takes the orb back to their base, Sally uses her super agility to steal another orb and trick 2 guilds into attacking each other. Her intelligence and skills help her return 2 more orbs to her team in no time. The leader of the red team has taken out several teams, but when Sally strikes, she is left panting in the dust after having used up a major portion of her powers. The guild reassembles their base as they see their first attackers gather outside the cave. They come in fierce, underestimating the tiny guild, which utterly destroys them. Maple uses her guardian skills to defend every team member from damage while they attack the enemies with cannonballs and hammers, forcing them to make a tactical retreat. The game goes on. Blue Knight, the game's top-ranked player, slices and pierces his way through legions of players, and without a single falter, defeats them all. He single-handedly manages to steal 20 orbs for his guild. He decides to target Maple Tree next, which may not be as simple as all the other guilds. So far, they have successfully defended their base as well as retrieved 10 orbs, but still rank low as the 17th guild. They must acquire more orbs if they want to stand a chance of winning, so while they wait back to protect their orb, she leaves on a mission to get the guild more points, even though the rest of the team worries about her. She decides to follow and collect orbs on her own for the team, and with her staff tools, she takes out a guild nearby. The guild vanquishes their attackers one by one, gaining stats for themselves. She has a good raid and collects 10 orbs, but her powers are drained, and she is now faced with a large knight army. Realizing she can't fight them off alone, she tries to run away, but is led into a trap and surrounded by fighters. She sends a distress signal to Mail while continuing to defend herself astoundingly well from all the attacks. The knights bring in reinforcements, making her extremely vulnerable, but like a lightning strike through the sky, she lands next to her and brings her to safety while also causing total damage to the incoming fighters. The girl in white escapes to safety, completely baffled by the turn of events, and alerts her guild leaders about the danger. The enemy reaches Maple Tree Base, which is left guarded by only the sisters. They send out a signal for help even though all of them are stuck in their own fights. After just a short fight, he manages to kill them. But before he reaches to grab the orb, she reaches the base and immediately activates all of her special skills. He's powerless against the 2 of them and is killed off, but he promises to be back with a bigger group. Once all of them assemble back at the base, they collect all of the orbs they stole and plan the rest of their strategy. She has scouted the guilds all over the map and explains the best way to attack maximum guilds while also protecting their own orbs. While talking, she ends up passing out from all the exhaustion, and it is clear that she must rest to regenerate her powers. Along with the turtle and the sisters, she begins taking down guilds and their orbs. The red team is warned of her intention to attack. They have armored themselves with traps, including specialist ones targeted at her. But along with the sisters' super strength, they manage to pass through without any damage to themselves. The time for the mega battle has arrived. Flame Emperors versus Maple Tree. Mai, the leader of the Flame Emperor and an extremely powerful player, enters the battle to fight them head-on. She plans to push her far enough away from the girls so that her protection is out of range. She almost succeeds in this task, but she makes it just in time to cover them, and with her predatory skills, attacks them back before sending the girls away on the turtle. She wonders what additional skills Maple is hiding as the Hydra Poison dragons counter the leader's move. She tries to get closer to the orb and the other fighters so she can use her shield's Devour skill, but the three of them throw constant attacks at her and trap her in a flaming circle of fire, toxins, and more, forcing her to use up her Devours, and she is still too far away to use the Hydra attack. The rest of the guild jumps in to fight her, when the turtle hits them with a sonic attack, giving her enough time to get closer to them. Mi hits her with infernos over and over, but she is able to stop them with her shield. They realize they will require a higher divine power to defeat her. The two of them stall her while she chants a spell that she uses to trap her in a prison that deals constant damage, and with no more Devours, her HP starts to take a hit. She is left with no choice and makes the decision to channel the machine god's powers. None of their attacks have any effect on the armor, and the red team tries to retreat, but the damage is too high. Mi grabs onto her and makes a failed attempt to kill her with self-destruction. The fight is over, but when they go to collect the orb, they are surprised to find it missing. Instead of chasing after it, they plan to go after the other guilds and end up collecting a few more orbs before returning to their team. After reviewing their ranking, they go on another hunt for orbs to secure their position in the top 10. Unfortunately, most of the orbs are secured with the large guilds, and their attacks on the smaller ones ended up being futile. The team is exhausted and falls back on defense as they cannot attack anymore. They try to run away with their orbs but are stopped by the Blue Knights Guild. The four of them are in a much stronger position to fight them. The three of them throw all their strength and powers into the attack while the girl attempts to steal the orbs. The Blue Knight dodges all of her attacks and with a final swing of his Sword of Judgment pierces her, reducing her HP to 1. He is able to break through her Hydra Poison and Predator attacks with little effort. She continues struggling to survive against him and is unable to receive any kind of help from her team since all of them have been incapacitated. The fox is killed, as is Eyes, while Sally is frozen in place. He is about to make his final blow when she pulls out another secret weapon from behind her shield, a Mega Force blaster that would kill almost anyone. He, however, is also protected from damage from the Guardian's skill and survives the blaster. With no other option left, she turns herself into the demonic monster, and after a little pushback from him, grabs him and kills him with a bite, then proceeds to kill the rest of the enemies. She retains her form since she's only able to transform once a day. Now that they've secured the 6th rank, they aim to restrict lower guilds from gaining any orbs. In her atrocity monster form, she, along with the guild, wipes out large sections of players. The players in the afterlife watch intently as the event unfolds. The Flame Emperors are back at war with all the other guilds, or trying to wipe them out in order to move up the ranks. Maple and Sally make their way to the battleground, but instead of killing Mi, she kills off all their enemies, leaving them confused. Blue Knight and his team stare in amazement as they watch Maple destroy everyone who comes in her way. The event ends 2 days early with only 6 guilds left, and since all the top 10 rankers receive the same reward, there is no point in continuing the fighting. Maple Tree secures the 3rd rank and will now be much more of a target in the coming events. But for now, they celebrate their win back in the guild along with other top players, and she toasts to the guild and their rank. Life resumes for her as she sits in her room preparing to study for her upcoming exams. That's it for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe for part 2, and watch this next video on screen.